What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a look at two new leaders from Op-09. Now, here's what's interesting. The other day, we had only seen two leaders. We'd seen Lim that had the static downside of all of your characters come into play rested, and we'd seen Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach, that had the static downside of your on-play skills don't activate. So I asked what I'm pretty sure is a very reasonable question. Hang on a second. Does this mean that all of the leaders in Op-09 would have static downsides, i.e. negative skills that affect you negatively, that aren't good things, that are always active? The answer is no, because we've seen Nico Robin and Gear 5 Luffy, and they do not have static downsides. Now, as a side note, remember, I have been posturing all along that the set is called, well, New Emperor over in Japan and Emperors in the New World in English. That is the official name of the set. But if we look at the booster pack, etc., it's themed after the four emperors, and I've been suggesting that we're going to have all four of the emperors as leader cards. We've already had Blackbeard, we've already had Luffy. I have got to believe that Shanks and Buggy are coming. And it's also worth noting that although we've not had official confirmation on either the English or the Japanese site, we are expecting 6 leaders. That's what distributors have told us, and also that's what we generally tend to get, which means they will be the final 2 leaders. If we have any leaders other than Buggy and Shanks, that means we don't get all 4 of the Emperors. Watch this space. So starting off then, we have got ourselves Nico Robin, and Nico Robin looks good. Really, really good. We got a black and purple leader. We've got Banish, just on the leader, always there. You've always got Banish. More on that in a moment. That's amazing. And we've got when attacking, you may discard a card with trigger from your hand to add a Don card from your Don deck rested. That's really good. Like, I love this. I think this is a phenomenal leader. I am a gigantic fan of this leader. I think this leader is awesome. Now, as a side note, this is a purple and yellow leader, which people refer to as Lakers leaders because of, you know, the colouring. And it's not the first or even the second one of these we've had, because obviously back in OP04, we had ourselves Crocodile, and then more recently in OP08, we had Charlotte Puddin'. So not a unique leader colour combination, and honestly at this point we've had a lot of leaders. You're not going to be seeing many unique leader colour combinations, but, you know, we've already had 2 of these. Is this any better than the alternatives? I will say that actually the Charlotte Puddin' is great. I've been effusive in my praise for that card. That is the when attacking, you may turn the top 2 cards of your life face up and add a Don card from your Don deck rested. This is better than Charlotte Puddin'. Now, I love the idea with Charlotte Puddin' that you can essentially just get an extra Don every turn really easily. Well, you can do that here. You can definitely get an extra Don really easily every turn here. All you need to do is discard a card with trigger from your hand. Now, there does obviously come a point where you've discarded too many cards with trigger and you're running out of options, you're losing cards that you may otherwise have wanted, you're running low on cards in hand, you've got to either discard cards you want or give up the opportunity to get an extra Don. Like, all of that is fine, yeah? But you're a purple deck, or at least partly purple deck. You want to be having extra Dons. You've got all your Don minor skills. You want to be ramping up very quickly to get a card like Black Maria into play. Yeah, you're purple. You can play Black Maria. Obviously, you are going to want to be playing Black Maria. And this means you can get Black Maria even faster. Remember, Black Maria gets 5 Don out. Now, you do have to, at the end of your turn, put them back until you've got the same number as your opponent, blah, blah, blah. But it's a free cost. And you're adding Don out here. And this can also use the other new Charlotte Puddin', that if a Don goes back into your Don deck, you get to get an extra one out. to replace the one you put back. And yeah, purple decks are looking very good right now. Being able to just get an extra Don out, and all you need to do is trash a trigger from your hand, that's a pretty big deal. Oh, as a side note, if you compare this to the Crocodile from Op-04, that is, when a Don card from your field is turned to your Don deck, add up to one card from your Don deck and set it as active. Well, we can already return a Don with Charlotte Pudding. It's rested, but you still return it. And we can return a Don with the starter deck 10 Kid. It's not good enough. I really don't think we're going to be playing Crocodile here. We want to be ramping Don, and we can do that really nicely with the Charlotte Pudding, and we can do it really well with Nico Robin. I feel pretty confident that this is the one we're not going to be using. Also, it's obviously the kid from OP05, not starter deck 10. You knew that. I put a little note on the screen. So we've also got Banish here. And Banish is a very big deal. Banish basically says that your opponent doesn't get trigger, and any cards that would be added to their hand when you take life are instead discarded. Banish is a phenomenal skill. And this is just static on the leader. Every time the leader takes life, your opponent doesn't get an advantage from it. They don't get a card into their hand. They don't get to activate any skills that might come around. They get nothing. Yeah. That's really, really good. I absolutely adore this, honestly. I absolutely adore this. And here's the thing, right? People have been suggesting this with the new Charlotte Linlin from Starter Deck 20, which is a yellow card, and I love this. Because when you play, you can discard a card from your hand, and then your opponent either has to discard 2 cards from their hand, bearing in mind they're not going to get extra cards when you take life, etc., or you get to put the top card of your life into the trash, but they don't get trigger. Not from this, obviously, you never get trigger when you trash, but all of the triggers that would be getting life back, etc., yeah, that doesn't work anymore. And that's kind of the point here. You're putting your opponent in a super awkward situation. Now, there is an argument that discarding cards with Nico Robin and then discarding more cards with something like Charlotte Linlin will run your hand out of cards a bit too quickly. These are things we're going to have to manage. But just off the start here, I mean, seriously, we've got Banish, so your opponent doesn't get trigger and doesn't get all the extra cards they might be expecting. And we get to ramp up Don. This seems phenomenal. This seems absolutely, genuinely phenomenal. I'm a gigantic fan of this leader. But we have Gear 5 Luffy as well. We should probably talk about Gear 5 Luffy. And what Gear 5 Luffy does, we got a dual color purple and black. And again, this is not a new color combination. We got a couple different options. We did have Zephyr back in OP02, but I know there are a few people that like this, and I know it tops every so often. It does come around, but it's not ended up being a particularly good deck, and we've had it since OP02. More recently, we did have this color combination in OP08 as well. We had ourselves King, which is a leader I like very much indeed. I showed you the other day a deck profile on this channel of King and how it can be pretty good, because we got the activate main once per turn, Don -2, and then you either, if you got 5 or fewer cards in hand, get to draw one, or you get to give one of your opponent's characters -2 cost for the turn. It is a decent card, and I've seen a little bit of love for it. It's still new in the life cycle of this card. I think it's going to end up being a very good card. But what does Luffy actually do here? Well, what we've got from Luffy is Don X1, all of your characters get +1 cost. Which is awesome, because we know there are a lot of cards out there that aim to bump a character or KO a character based on their cost. So being able to have higher cost makes it more difficult for these control cards to actually get rid of your characters. This is a good static skill. It's another static skill, and all 4 of them, all 4 of the leaders we've seen so far from OP09 have had a static skill. The difference with Robin and Luffy is that they've actually been positive static skills. They've been ones that we want to have. And then we got another skill as well. We've got on your turn, once per turn, when 2 or more Don get returned from your field to your Don deck, you may put 2 extra Don into play from your Don deck, 1 active and 1 rested. Oh, that returns to Don. Now, here you've got the opposite of what we were talking about with Robin a second ago. Because, of course, Robin is ramping up Don, getting you more Don out faster. Luffy is replacing Don. So any of your Don minus skills, like Don minus 2 all of a sudden, becomes free. There is no Don minus 2 because you minus 2 Don, and actually it's not even free, it's better than free, because obviously when you're using Don minus skills, you're getting rid of rested Don, obviously. Use a Don, then put it back. Well, here, you not only get to replace those 2 Don, but you get to do it with a rested Don and an active Don. So when you use a Don minus 2 skill, or higher obviously, you put 2 rested Don back, you get 1 rested Don to replace it, but then you get an active Don to replace it as well. I cannot be the only one that thinks this is absolutely absurdly good. It just comes down to your color combination. And look, here's the thing. One of the very best cards we've got around at the moment in the game is Black Maria. That's purple. One of the other best cards we've got around in the game right now is Gecko Moria. That's black. And I'm not saying necessarily that you're going to have to go ahead and do this, but I am saying that all of a sudden we've got access to some of the most powerful cards in the game. As always, we are really, really early with the reveal cycle for Op-09, so we need to wait and see exactly what else comes out, what other support we get. But it's kind of interesting, those purple straw hats that we had back in Op-05, well, 4 sets later, we now have 2 leaders that are both purple and Straw Hat Crew. Nico Robin is just Straw Hat Crew. Luffy is both Straw Hat Crew and 4 Emperors. But now we have options, and you know what? I'm starting to think these could be good. I'm still not a fan of Lim. I don't think Lim's a very good leader, but we might see some Odyssey cards that convince me otherwise. I think Blackbeard turning off on-play skills of your and your opponents could absolutely change the game. I think both of these are very, very strong leaders. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm leaning towards Nico Robin. I think the idea of having Banish while you're ramping Don potentially every turn, you need to try and find some ways to be drawing cards, but that could be great. And as for Gear 5 Luffy, I mean, look, you're getting 2 Don back every time you get rid of 2 Don. That kind of seems like the kind of thing Purple want to do. For now, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, and anything else you want to tell me. So go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching What's He Plays.